Hello, I was reading an article by Forbes.com. It's about how to say no at work. And it's basically about overloaded and your boss wants more. Sometimes it pays to say no. Some people avoid other responsibilities to be at work and work for nothing. Sometimes the boss expects you to work for nothing because they're paying you a certain wage or salary, which is actually very illegal to work for nothing unless you're a volunteer and you got set hours. But anyway, it pays sometimes to say, no, I have an appointment tonight. I'll focus on this later. I've got this task at the moment. If you want a good job, I'll give it to you. But for this right now that you're asking of me, no. Or I have a commitment. My boy needs to go and see the doctor, or whatever it may be. You don't have to make too many excuses for saying no at work. Now, this is saying that today many companies are expecting their employees to do more work in less time. So really, they're overloading people, but they're not putting on extra staff to make their job run freely. That in turn creates a lot of people who have sick days off, or at times they're at work from 7 in the morning till 10 at night, because they're hoping to get an advancement. It doesn't mean you'll get an advancement. You could be doing that for 5 years, putting in an extra 30 hours a week. Doesn't mean that your boss is going to recognize you and give you an advancement where you are at work. If that's the case, you need to have that in writing, that these extra times will lead to an advancement in pay, advancement in career. Otherwise, you need to say, look, I only get paid from 7 o'clock till 4 or 7 till 5. I have other commitments. I can hold a second job for the amount of time that I put into this job freely. Now, that might suck to some employers, but then they know that you're worth, that you need to show an employer that you've got worth. I've had some people ask some bosses, say, well, if you can put in half an hour extra tonight, we'll take that off, you can leave Friday earlier. Okay, fair enough. That's a negotiation. And some employees would say, look, we've got no one to clean the toilets at the moment. It's not in your job duties, but if you'd like to do that, we'll give you an extra $25 or $50 above your wages for doing that job above your duties. Anyway, there's negotiations within jobs, and some employers would not ask you to do a job that they wouldn't do themselves, but in most cases the employer is getting paid their salary, or they're getting paid their wage, or the manager, whatever may be, to do certain jobs. Now, if a person is a standard employee, they're employed from a certain time to a certain time. Sometimes you don't mind working over, 10 minutes or 15 minutes. But I remember one time I was working for a supermarket called Safeways in Australia. Now, when we went to work, we clocked on the time we came and clocked on the time we finished. Every minute that if I turned up 3 minutes late but worked 5 minutes overtime, it will go over as 2 minutes, which will be added up. If I left too early, it will go down. That's basically how the wage worked many years ago. Now, what I'm saying here is that you've got to be aware of your time, your job duties, what you're employed for, and what the employer will pay, and if they pay overtime. If they expect you to work many hours of overtime for nothing, or it's not in your job duties, always have some other commitments. Otherwise, the employer will expect that all the time, or even more. Sure, they might buy you a pizza, but in Australia, for instance, you get meal allowances if you work over certain times and certain periods. And that goes into your wage as because industrial relations areas. I'm not sure how all this operates within America. And I know this is a bit of a yap, but sometimes you can say no to, in most cases, an employer will respect. If you say, no, I can't do 3 things at once, let me finish my one task first, or all these other things, then I'll dedicate my mind focused on the exact thing that you want me to do. Unless you want me to put a hold on these ones to do the other ones, but then these accounts will fall behind. It's all depending on what sort of job you've got too. So anyway, it's okay to say no to some things, and it's sometimes in your best interest to sometimes put out a little bit, but not too much. Otherwise, your employer will say, well, this person gave me 30 hours this week for free. I've saved $700, or I've saved $900 in wages. Why would I want to employ someone else if this person's going to do it for free? Okay, you got a pat on the back, you've done a great job, but too much free work doesn't give a person employment. It lacks the ability to focus on your job. The next day you turn up tired. You'll be working and nearly nodding off to sleep because you've had to come home, have a meal, shower, take care of your domestic duties, and at the same time, I know this is a long yap, you get up in the morning, you're too tired, your eyes are computer screened, or your arms are so sore from doing the same repetitious work that eventually your body starts to break down. They have meal breaks, for instance, for a reason. In the morning, you have your breakfast. Some people skip breakfast, so they have a morning tea. They give you 10 to 15 minutes, just talking on an average. Then at lunchtime, you can have a half-hour break or an hour break, depending on what employment status you are. So then you go back to work for a couple of hours, and then they give you an afternoon tea for 10 to 15 minutes. An afternoon tea is to have time away from whatever you're doing, having a coffee, sit down for a minute, and stretch your legs. If you need to sit down because you've been stretching your legs all day, then that's a different matter altogether. So you work out how many hours you may do for free. You work out how many hours the rest of the employers do for free, and you work out the ones who have the importance to always knock off at the same time. Boss says nothing about that. For you, if you're single, you've got a partner. Even if you don't have a partner, go dancing, take up karate, whatever you need to do. If you're a married person, you've got child responsibilities, or you've got wife or husband responsibilities in particular, that will keep you from working overtime for nothing. If you do get paid your overtime, great, and that overtime is usually time and a half or double time or whatever may be in the industrial relations. Working on a Sunday, what they used to pay triple time for Christmas in Australia. Triple time, triple your pay. So if you earn $40 an hour, you're getting $120 an hour for Christmas. But that's Australia. I don't know how they work here in America on that basis, but I don't think they have that system in place in most employed jobs. But salary workers, well, their job sucks too, because sometimes the employers will expect more because they're paying you a wage. They're going to pay you, they want you to work 60 hours instead of your allocated 40. But why do the other people don't work overtime? Ever thought about that? Because they know the rules, they know their limits, they know that they have other commitments. But for some people, they don't use that barrier to be able to go and do your work and leave on time. Anyway, I'm Men's Help TV, and I've yabbed on for 10 minutes about saying no to an employer when you have other plans. Anyway, bye.